Welcome to Straight No Chaser. So grab a glass and join your hosts, your girl MBZ, Pastor C, Thin Bad, and the Chief.
Good evening and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues. We only serve the hard stuff. It's your girl Ambeezy, and as always, I'm here with my fabulous co-host, the Chief.
Good evening.
And Thin Bad will be joining us momentarily.
That's correct.
So tonight we're gonna just take it easy and go over some hot topics that have been going on in the news this week. So I know there's like a couple of things that you wanted to talk about, Chief. So why don't you get the ball rolling? And yeah.
Well, you know, it's been a busy week on a couple of senses this week, and you know, when you look at the news and look at the things that are going on, it's just amazing. One thing that I don't know whether people across the country were aware of, but you know, here in our town, they recently had a big scare, and they arrested a couple of young people who were threatening to shoot up their school at the Arborview.
That wasn't okay. So there's two separate incidents.
Yes.
There was the one where the kid was going to shoot up the school. That wasn't Arborview though. That was a different school. And then at Arborview, they actually had a race riot. Well, not a race riot, but they had some racial issues where, so some of the Caucasian students were posting on their Instagram and Twitter, posting pictures of black classmates, calling them monkeys, threatening to lynch them, doing a whole bunch of, you know, unnecessary shenanigans. And as a result, there was, of course, a fight at the school, which they are calling a low-scale race riot.
Wow. And you know, it kind of amazes me that we are having these conversations at this period in our lives. You know, I know most of the school systems across the country go through training, and they try to offer opportunities for young people to have dialogue with folks who come from different cultures and races and so forth. And you know, when you have this type of stuff happening at such a young age, it really makes you wonder what's going on in the communities, and more importantly, what's going on at home. You know, what do you think?
I agree. You know, when it comes to the things that are going on that level, because now we're talking about a generation even behind me, those are not principles that you are born with. Those are things that are learned.
Right. And you know, particularly for young people, that really makes it very concerning, because when you are in your formative years like that, 13, 14, 15, and so forth, and you're harboring that type of prejudice or those types of thoughts, I mean, it just really gives you pause, because you just wonder, okay, not only what is going on, but how many more young people are sitting at home literally plotting those types of actions. Now, I know in New Zealand, they just had a very tragic situation with the mosque shooting, which, as everyone knows, was racially motivated. But again, you really have to wonder what is going on that has youngsters this age making these types of threats, because,
well,
you know,
that's not a question in my mind, because everything is trendy. You know, that generation. You know, I know that I'm a millennial, but one of the advantages to people who are my age and older is that we did grow up in the beginning without our phones. Most of my friends did not have a phone until we were in high school, like maybe freshman year of high school, maybe 8th grade. That's pushing it. Like, we weren't even really on. So Instagram was not a thing. Twitter wasn't. It was out there, but it wasn't that serious. We were on Facebook, really, and at that point, your friends and your family's on Facebook as well. So we're not over here wilding, but this is a generation of kids that grew up on the internet. They grew up on Instagram. They grew up on Twitter. So the amount of savage that they have is just a little bit different, first of all. And second of all, they're a lot more easily influenced by the things that they see on social media. So, you know, they could have parents who are Trump supporters, and they're seeing, you know, it's kind of, if you really think about it, the way that politics is running in America right now is kind of like a reality show. Because the different thing about our president right now is that he is the first president I've seen in my lifetime, and I've only seen, 3 presidents in my lifetime?
Yep.
He's the first president I've seen in my lifetime who, after winning the election, he actually did not try to win the rest of America over. He just catered to his supporters, even to this day. He doesn't really care. It's him and the MAGA crew versus America, which is not the way to be thinking. But it kind of creates this interesting dynamic on social media because it's a us versus them mentality. So when you're a part of them, you act a certain way. They can get away with certain things. When you're a part of everybody else, you're more liberal. And that's really how it is on social media. So these kids are barely, I mean, you can smell the Similac on their breath. They're still in high school. I'm pretty sure these are freshmen who got into this race riot. Freshmen, 13, 14 years old. They don't know nothing.
Sure.
They don't know anything. They just know what they see. And that kind of language and things, those are things that actually are not popular, but they're just, people are more vocal about those things online right now because this is the first time in a long time where situations like that have flared up because of the political climate. So they just, you know, they're kids. They just do stupid stuff. They see somebody do something, they think it's cool to act like that. It doesn't, to me, I understand the severity of the situation, but this happening is no different than people on social media or people growing up in a Crip or Blood neighborhood and they ain't hard, but they gangbang anyways. Like, it's the same thing.
Well, let me ask you this, because you are very proficient with Instagram and all the other platforms. Do you think it's a combination of the guy in the White House with all of his rhetoric and the things he is doing and saying on Twitter and other platforms? Or do you think it's just the anonymity that you have with social media that's contributing to this? Or do you think, and I'm just talking about you're in college and you're around that younger crowd. What do you think it is at the surface that's causing people to feel so emboldened to do things like this?
Because of the relatability. Think about it.
Okay.
Think about it, right? When you were in school.
Right.
Even when I was in school, the president was something that was unattainable. Being president of the United States was prestigious. The guy who was there, whether you liked his political views or not, he was a very carried themselves with a certain presence. They exuded wisdom. There was just something about the president of the United States. Now, you look at this guy, and he's a total douche.
Wow.
And, like, it's kind of like having, you listen to what he says. He melts down. He lies. He carries himself like a high school child. And when you look at that, if I was a teenage boy and I already grew up in a family that, was borderline, I'm not going to say racist because some of them are just ignorant. It's not really race. It's just, I don't know. But if I was a kid that grew up in that climate and I looked at Donald Trump, I'd be like, dang, Donald Trump acts just like me, and look at what he's getting done. So I'm going to just start doing whatever he does. It's the same thing. You see what he does on social media. Kids think it's funny. Kids think this. Kids think that. But regardless, this guy who carries himself the way that kids their age carry themselves is doing a massive thing. He's the president of the United States. He's getting people to do things, feel so bold to do things that hasn't happened in years. And so, of course, it's a combination of both. It's a combination of looking at that, because the thing is, I know that you can't blame everything on the president, but when it comes to social media, it's a hot topic. That's all you see on social media is politics. He's tweeting, somebody's tweeting about him, and then people post videos talking about MAGA and all this stuff. It's inevitable. You could have a social media for music, and you're still gonna see it. So, and when you spend all day on your phone, you get tired of seeing the content you enjoy that you've seen over and over again. You're going to eventually look at these things.
Well, I agree with you. And the interesting thing is that the brazenness of, the attack in New Zealand, these young people wanting to plan an attack. And I saw some of the comments that were released, some of the things that these young people said. They're referring to, using the N-word, referring to some of the folks they felt there were too many of them in the cafeteria and in the school, so they had to do something about it. I'm paraphrasing. But, that type of mental process is very disturbing. And it's unfortunate that it's being reinforced when you are looking at tweets coming from your leader, and there's no one there that well, I can't say there's no one, but there may not be people around to sort of help that young person keep things in context, to say to them, you know what, even though this guy is saying these unusual things, and he is, the leader of the free world, this is inappropriate. This statement was inappropriate. That statement was not factual. Now this, okay, I get this, but that type of oversight also is missing, because even when you look at folks who don't necessarily harbor those feelings, when they see some of the messaging that's coming out, they're like, oh, really? I didn't know X, Y, and Z. Now,
right.
You have the Post and the New York Times and others that are actually counting the number of lies and all the things that are coming out of D.C.
But when you blindly believe somebody that's saying they're lying, you ignore facts.
Well, that's true.
You ignore facts, and that's really the problem. I mean, I look at how these lower class, Caucasian people in the South, in the Midwest, that thrive off farms, that actually benefit from the low income programs that the government offers and all that stuff. Even when it comes to this college scandal, it's the same principle. Because of this campaign, they are blaming minorities for problems that are actually being caused by the president's preference over the rich. It has nothing to do with minorities. But of course he's going to have you think it's minorities so that you'll be mad at them instead of him. And I'm just wondering, what is it going to take for those people to wake up? This is not 1952.
Well, unfortunately for some, and I'm talking about some in all races and creeds, it's going to take an impact that they have to feel. Whether it's, I went down
But see, that's what I'm saying. They feel the impact, but they think that it's minorities. And it's not minorities that are taking your spots, that are cutting your benefits. Like, you are not losing your welfare check because more black people are on welfare. That's not what it is. You're losing it because the president does not care about you. He just wanted to get you riled up to vote for him, and he really cares about the rich. It really doesn't have to do the crazy thing about this president is that he has done a fantastic job in in sticking to his guns. I really thought that after a while he would